The champagne glass in my hand trembled as Vanessa's voice cut through the retirement party chatter like a knife through butter. "Oh, Dorothy," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness as she addressed the room full of my former colleagues and neighbors. "You've worked so hard all these years as a simple accountant. It must be difficult seeing how successful my parents are. But jealousy really isn't becoming on someone your age." The room went silent. Every single person at my retirement party, a party I had planned and paid for myself at the Riverside Country Club, turned to watch. The string quartet stopped playing. Even the waiters froze mid-step. I was 72 years old. I had just retired after 50 years as a certified public accountant, and my daughter-in-law had just called me jealous and bitter in front of everyone who mattered to me. "Excuse me?" I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Vanessa laughed, that tinkling laugh she'd perfected. She was wearing a designer dress, Chanel, I recognized it from the boutique downtown, that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. Her highlighted hair was perfectly styled, her nails freshly manicured. At 38 years old, she'd never worked a day in her life. "Come on, Mom Dorothy," she said, using that patronizing nickname she'd started calling me 5 years ago when she married my son Brian. "Everyone knows you're upset that my parents bought us the house in Willowbrook Estates while you're still in that little 2-bedroom condo. It's okay to admit it. We all understand it must be hard." My son Brian stood next to her, his eyes on his shoes. My only child. The boy I'd raised alone after his father died when he was just 3 years old. The man who was now 41 and couldn't even look at me while his wife humiliated me. "Brian," I said, waiting for him to defend me, to say something, anything. He cleared his throat. "Mom, maybe we should talk about this later. You're making a scene." I was making a scene? My best friend Ruth grabbed my elbow, steadying me. She'd known me for 45 years. She knew exactly what I was feeling in that moment. Vanessa continued, emboldened by Brian's silence. "My parents worked very hard for their money. They built Hartford Construction from nothing. Meanwhile, you were just an accountant, a bookkeeper, really. It's no wonder you feel inadequate. But taking it out on us? On your own family? That's just sad. Just an accountant, a bookkeeper." Those words echoed in my head. Around me, people were starting to whisper. I could see pity in their eyes. Poor Dorothy Winters, they were thinking. Jealous of her wealthy daughter-in-law. What a sad way to end a career. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew except Ruth, was that I wasn't just a simple accountant. I wasn't struggling in a little 2-bedroom condo. What they didn't know was that I had already been planning. They didn't know that this 72-year-old woman had one more card to play. And it was time to play it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 3 months earlier to when this whole situation started to unravel. It was a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because Tuesdays were my morning walk days with Ruth at Riverside Park. We'd been doing it for 20 years, rain or shine, every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. "Your grandson's birthday party this weekend?" Ruth asked as we walked our usual 3-mile loop. She was 74, 2 years older than me, and could still outwalk women half our age. "Yes," I said. "Owen's turning 8. I can hardly believe it." "What did you get him?" "A savings bond for $5,000, I said. "And a Lego set he's been wanting." Ruth stopped walking. $5,000? Dorothy, that's— "It's fine," I interrupted. I'd been doing this since Owen was born. His sister Lily, who was 5, had similar bonds. Together I'd put away $43,000 for their college education. Brian and Vanessa didn't know about any of it. "Does Brian know you're doing this?" Ruth asked carefully. I shook my head. "He thinks I give them $50 savings bonds. If he knew the real amounts, Vanessa would find a way to get her hands on it," Ruth finished. "Dorothy, when are you going to tell them the truth?" The truth. That was a complicated thing. You see, I'd spent 50 years building a very successful career. I wasn't just an accountant. I was a senior partner at Winters & Associates. the firm I'd built from nothing after my husband Thomas died in 1983. For 42 years, I'd handled the accounts for some of the largest businesses in the state. I'd invested wisely, saved carefully, and built a portfolio worth $4.7 million. But Brian didn't know that. Nobody knew that except Ruth and my lawyer, Frederick Martinez. After Thomas died, I'd made a decision. Brian was only 3 years old, and I didn't want him growing up knowing we were wealthy. I'd seen too many rich kids become entitled, lazy, unmotivated. I wanted my son to have a normal childhood, to understand the value of work, to build his own life. So I lived modestly. We had a nice house, nothing extravagant, in a middle-class neighborhood. Brian went to public school. He got a job at 16, worked his way through college, became a high school history teacher. I was so proud of him. I'd planned to tell him everything when he turned 40, to explain why I'd hidden it, to share my wealth with him, to help him secure his future. But then he married Vanessa. I can't tell him now, I said to Ruth that Tuesday morning. Not with her in the picture. She's gotten worse, Ruth observed. Last time I saw her at the grocery store, she walked right past me, didn't even say hello. That was Vanessa. Ever since her parents had bought her and Brian that house, a 6-bedroom colonial in Willowbrook Estates worth $850,000, she'd changed. Actually, that wasn't fair. She'd always been entitled, but now she was worse. The house purchase had happened 2 years ago. Her parents, Gerald and Patricia Hartford, had bought it outright as a gift. Never mind that Brian and Vanessa already had a perfectly good home. Never mind that they hadn't consulted me. Suddenly, Brian was living in a mansion, and Vanessa never let anyone forget who had provided it. "Mom, we're having a dinner party Saturday night," Brian had called to tell me the day before my walk with Ruth. "Vanessa's parents are coming. They want to celebrate their 40th anniversary with family." "That sounds lovely," I'd said. "What time should I arrive?" There was a pause. "Actually, Mom, this is really just for the Hartfords. Vanessa's parents, her siblings. You understand, right? It's their family thing." Their family thing. I was just... What? A bystander? "Brian, I'm your mother." "I know, Mom, and we'll have you over another time. It's just that the house only has so much space, and Vanessa really wanted to make it special for her parents." The house had 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Space wasn't the issue. I'd hung up feeling that familiar ache in my chest, the one that had been growing stronger over the past 2 years. "You need to stand up to them," Ruth said as we finished our walk that Tuesday. "You've been too passive, Dorothy." Maybe she was right. But Brian was my only child. Owen and Lily were my only grandchildren. What was I supposed to do? Risk losing them? That afternoon, I went to my office. Even though I was planning to retire in June, I still went in 4 days a week. The firm would continue under my junior partners, but I was overseeing the transition. My secretary, Gloria, greeted me with her usual smile. "Mr. Martinez called. He wants to discuss your estate planning." Frederick Martinez had been my lawyer for 30 years. He'd helped me structure my assets, manage my investments, and plan my future. At 78 years old, he was still sharp as a tack. "Dorothy," he said when I called him back, "we need to update your will before your retirement becomes official. Your current documentation names Brian as your sole beneficiary. Is that still your intention?" I hesitated. 6 months ago, I would have said yes without thinking. But now... "Let me think about it, Frederick." "I understand the situation is complicated," he said gently, "but you need to make decisions. You've worked too hard to let your assets fall into the wrong hands." The wrong hands. He meant Vanessa. That Saturday, I went to Owen's birthday party. It was held at their house in Willowbrook Estates, complete with a bounce house, a magician, and a catering company that must have cost $3,000. "Grandma Dot!" Owen came running up to me, his face bright with joy. That's what he called me, Grandma Dot. It was the best sound in the world. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." I handed him his gifts. He tore open the Lego set, immediately, eyes wide with excitement. The envelope with the savings bond, I handed to Brian. "Mom, this is too much," Brian said when he looked inside. "Recalibrated plot detail regarding bond denomination discrepancy. Wait, I need to be careful here." The protagonist told Ruth it was a $5,000 bond, but Brian thinks she only gives $50 bonds. So Brian would be looking at what appears to be a $50 bond, not knowing it's actually worth much more. Let me adjust this. I'd put the $5,000 bond in an envelope marked $50 savings bond on the outside. That's what they'd see. The actual value was inside, recorded properly, but they'd never look that closely. "It's just $50, Brian, for his college fund." He nodded, distracted, and set it aside. Vanessa didn't even glance at it. The party was crowded with Vanessa's friends, other wealthy mothers from the neighborhood. I recognized the type immediately. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, children in private school. They clustered together, talking about their latest vacations and home renovations. I sat at a table with Owen and Lily, helping them eat cake. "Grandma, why don't you live in a big house like ours?" Lily asked innocently. Before I could answer, Vanessa appeared. "Because Grandma Dot likes her cozy little condo, sweetie. Not everyone can afford a house like this." Her tone was light, friendly even, but the message was clear. "I like my home," I said quietly. "It's perfect for me." "Of course it is," Vanessa said. "And it's so close to the senior center. That must be convenient." I was 72, not 95. I didn't go to the senior center. But apparently, in Vanessa's mind, I was already 1 foot in the grave. That night, I called Frederick Martinez at home. "I want to change my will," I said, "and I need to set up some protections. Tell me what you're thinking." Over the next hour, I outlined my plan. Brian would still be my heir, but with conditions, strict conditions, and Vanessa would never be able to touch a penny of my money. "I'll draft everything this week," Frederick said. "But Dorothy? Maybe it's time to tell Brian the truth." "Not yet," I said. "I need to know he'll choose right when the moment comes." The moment came sooner than I expected. 2 weeks after Owen's birthday party, Brian called me. It was 8 p.m. on a Wednesday, later than he usually called. "Mom, we need to talk about your living situation." My living situation? I lived in a 2-bedroom condo in a secure building with a doorman. It was worth $320,000, fully paid off. It was beautiful, safe, and perfectly suited to my needs. "What about it?" "Vanessa and I have been talking. You're getting older and we're worried about you living alone. We think you should sell the condo and move into a senior living community." I set down my tea. "A senior living community? There's a great one called Golden Years Village. They have activities, meals prepared, medical staff on site. You'd have your own apartment, but with support. Brian, I'm 72 years old, not 92. I walk 3 miles 4 times a week. I still work full-time. I don't need support staff. Mom, please don't be difficult about this. We're just trying to help, and honestly, the money from your condo could really help us." There it was, the real reason. "Help you how?" He sighed. "Owen needs braces. They're going to cost $12,000. And we want to put both kids in private school next year. Willowbrook Academy is $30,000 per child annually. Vanessa's parents have already contributed so much, and we can't keep asking them." "So you're asking me instead?" "You'd still have a place to live. The Golden Years Village apartments are only $3,000 a month. Your condo would sell for at least $300,000. After paying for your apartment for, say, 10 years, there'd still be plenty left to help us with the kids' education." $3,000 a month for 10 years was $360,000, which was more than my condo was worth, and that was assuming I only lived 10 more years. "Brian, I'm not selling my home." "Mom, please, think about Owen and Lily. Don't you want to help your grandchildren?" The manipulation was so obvious it hurt. "I've been helping your children since they were born, but I'm not selling my home." "You're being selfish," he said, his voice hardening. "Vanessa was right about you." "Right about what?" "She said you'd be like this. She said you're bitter because her parents are more successful than you, that you resent us for having a nice house. I didn't believe her, but maybe she was right. I felt something crack inside my chest. Brian Thomas Winters, I raised you better than this. And I'm trying to take care of my family, but you're making it impossible. Fine, don't sell the condo, but don't expect us to keep including you in everything if you're not going to be part of the team. He hung up. I sat there in my living room, the phone still in my hand, tears streaming down my face. The next morning, Ruth found me on a bench in Riverside Park. It was Thursday, one of our regular walking days, but I couldn't walk. I could barely move. He chose her, I told Ruth. When it came down to it, Brian chose Vanessa over me. Ruth sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder. Tell him the truth, Dorothy. Tell him about the money, about the firm, about everything. And what? Have him love me only for what I can give him? Have Vanessa treat me well only because she thinks I'm rich? No. If my son can't love me for who I am, then money won't fix it. So what are you going to do? I looked at my hands. These hands had signed contracts, balanced books, built an empire. These hands had held Brian when he was a baby, raised him alone, given him everything. I'm going to protect myself, I said, and my grandchildren, and then I'm going to wait. Wait for what? For them to push me too far. That afternoon, I met with Frederick Martinez in his downtown office. I want to accelerate everything, I told him. The will changes, the trust for the grandchildren, all of it. I want it done by the end of the month. Frederick pulled out his files. Let's go through this carefully. Over the next 2 hours, we restructured my entire estate. A trust for Owen and Lily worth $500,000 each, to be distributed when they turned 25. Brian and Vanessa had no access to it. My condo would go to Brian, but only if he met certain conditions. If he didn't, it would be sold, and the proceeds split between the grandchildren's trusts. My liquid assets, $2.3 million in various accounts, would go to Brian, but in a structured trust he couldn't access all at once. $50,000 a year for 20 years. Vanessa couldn't touch it. My stake in Winters and Associates, worth approximately $1.9 million, would be liquidated and split. Half to Brian under the same conditions as above, half to charity. Everything was contingent on Brian showing respect and maintaining a relationship with me. If he cut me out of his life, everything except a token $100,000 went to charity and the grandchildren. This is airtight, Frederick said. But Dorothy, you should tell him. Give him a chance to change before it's too late. Not yet, I said. I need to see how far they'll go. I didn't have to wait long. The following week, Brian's number appeared in my WhatsApp group chat with Ruth and 2 other friends from the park, Eleanor and Martha. We called ourselves the Tuesday Morning Club. Brian Winters has been added to the chat Brian Winters. Hi, Mom's friends. This is Brian, Dorothy's son. I'm worried about my mother's mental health. She's been acting erratically lately, refusing to consider assisted living, making poor financial decisions. If you notice anything concerning, please let me know. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Ruth, Brian, your mother is perfectly healthy. This is inappropriate. Brian Winters, I appreciate your concern, but as her son, I need to make sure she's properly cared for. She's not getting any younger. He left the chat immediately after. He's building a case, Ruth said when I called her, furious and shaking. He's trying to paint you as incompetent. She was right. Over the next week, I learned that Brian had called my doctor's office asking about my mental competency. Dr. Stevens refused to speak to him. Contacted my bank, asking about suspicious activity on my accounts. They told him to submit a formal request. Told neighbors I was showing signs of dementia. Mrs. Patterson from down the hall told me directly. He was trying to get me declared incompetent. And if he succeeded, he could take control of everything. My home, my assets, my life. Frederick, we need to act now, I said. I'll have everything finalized by Friday, he said. And Dorothy? Document everything. Every phone call, every conversation. You might need it. I started keeping a journal. I recorded every interaction with Brian and Vanessa. April 15th. Brian called, demanded I give him power of attorney just in case. Refused. He hung up on me. April 18th. Vanessa sent text message. Your stubbornness is hurting your grandchildren. Is that what you want your legacy to be? April 22nd. Brian showed up at my condo unannounced with a real estate agent. Said he was just getting it appraised for planning purposes. Asked them to leave. April 26th. Received email from Brian with links to senior living facilities. Subject line: Stop being difficult. Each entry broke my heart a little more. May arrived, and with it the planning for my retirement party. I'd decided to go ahead with it, a celebration at the Riverside Country Club for my 50 years in accounting. I'd invited my colleagues, my friends, my neighbors, and yes, I'd invited Brian and Vanessa, because despite everything, they were still my family. I was still hoping, somewhere deep in my foolish heart, that my son would come to his senses. The Tuesday before the party, Ruth and I took our morning walk. You don't have to invite them, she said. After everything they've done. He's my son, Ruth. He's all I have. You have us, she said firmly. You have friends who actually care about you. You have dignity. You have... He's my son, I repeated, and we walked in silence. That afternoon, Vanessa called me. It was the first time she'd called me directly in 6 months. Dorothy, about your retirement party, what are you planning to wear? I was surprised by the question. I have a nice navy dress, I was thinking. Navy? Dorothy, you can't wear navy, it's so drab. Don't you have anything more cheerful? Something less... old lady? I like my navy dress, she sighed dramatically. Fine, but try to look presentable, okay? Brian's colleagues from the school are coming. We don't want you embarrassing him. Embarrassing him? I was being honored for 50 years of excellence in my field, and I might embarrass him? Goodbye, Vanessa. I hung up before she could respond. That evening, I pulled out my navy dress. It was elegant, classic, appropriate. I looked at myself in the mirror. 72 years old, gray hair I'd stopped dyeing 5 years ago, lines on my face that came from smiling and crying and living. I didn't look like Vanessa's mother, Patricia Hartford, who'd had so much plastic surgery she barely resembled a human anymore. I didn't dress like Vanessa, in clothes that cost more than most people earned in a month. But I looked like me. Dorothy Winters, certified public accountant, business owner, mother, grandmother, and that had to be enough. The night of the retirement party arrived, June 3rd. The Riverside Country Club had outdone itself. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, a string quartet, a buffet that looked like it belonged in a magazine. I'd paid for all of it, $15,000 from my own pocket, because I wanted to celebrate my career properly. Ruth arrived early with Eleanor and Martha. You look beautiful, Ruth said, hugging me. My colleagues from Winters and Associates came, all 12 of them, including the junior partners who'd be taking over. They gave speeches about my contributions, my innovations, my mentorship. It was overwhelming and wonderful. My neighbors came. Mrs. Patterson brought me flowers. The doorman from my building, Carlos, came on his night off. Dr. Stevens and his wife attended, and then Brian and Vanessa arrived. Vanessa was wearing that Chanel dress, pale pink, sleeveless, with pearl buttons. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like she was attending a wedding, not her mother-in-law's retirement party. Brian was in a suit I didn't recognize, probably another gift from the Hartfords. Hi, Mom, he said, giving me a stiff hug. Nice party. Thank you for coming. Vanessa air-kissed my cheek. Yes, it's lovely, very quaint. Quaint. A retirement party at a country club was quaint. They found seats at a table near the back. I noticed Vanessa whispering to Brian throughout the speeches, laughing quietly, rolling her eyes. I tried to ignore it. This was my night, my celebration. Then came the moment for toasts. Ruth went first, telling stories about our morning walks and our friendship. Eleanor spoke about my kindness. One of my junior partners talked about my business acumen. And then Brian stood up. My heart soared for a moment. My son was going to toast me, to honor me, to finally acknowledge. "I want to say something about my mother," he began. "Dorothy Winters has always been careful with money, practical, some might say too practical. Growing up, we never had much. We got by, but just barely. Mom worked hard, I'll give her that. But there were things we couldn't afford. Vacations, new clothes, the nice things other kids had." The room was silent. Where was he going with this? "Now Mom's retiring and I'm happy for her, but I think it's important to remember that success isn't just about work. It's about family, about priorities. My wife Vanessa comes from a family that understands that. Her parents, Gerald and Patricia Hartford, built their success and maintained their family bonds. They're generous, they're giving. They understand that money is meant to be shared with the people you love." He looked directly at me. "I hope retirement teaches Mom that lesson. That it's never too late to be generous, to put family first, to stop being so cautious with everything." He sat down. The room was uncomfortable. People shifted in their seats. Ruth's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. Vanessa was smiling. And that's when I knew this whole thing had been planned, the speech, the timing. They'd come here tonight with the intention of humiliating me, of pressuring me, of making me look selfish in front of everyone who mattered. I stood up. I was going to respond. I was going to defend myself. But Vanessa stood too, and her voice carried across the room. "Oh, Dorothy," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You've worked so hard all these years as a simple accountant. It must be difficult seeing how successful my parents are. But jealousy really isn't becoming on someone your age." And everything that happened after that, the public humiliation, the accusations, Brian's silence, unfolded exactly as I told you at the beginning. The room was silent after Vanessa's accusation. People were staring at me, waiting to see what I'd do. I saw pity in some eyes, judgment in others. Mrs. Patterson looked horrified. I set down my champagne glass very carefully on the table. My hand wasn't shaking anymore. Something had shifted inside me. That crack in my chest from all these months. It wasn't breaking me apart, it was breaking me open. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I appreciate each and every one of you. Ruth, Eleanor, Martha, my Tuesday morning club, thank you for 45 years of friendship. To my colleagues at Winters & Associates, thank you for helping me build something I'm proud of. And Brian, Vanessa, thank you for making things very, very clear." Brian stood up, his face red. "Mom, don't—" "I'll be in touch," I said. "Soon, very soon, but not tonight. Tonight is my night, and I'm going to enjoy it." I turned away from them and walked toward Ruth. Behind me, I heard Vanessa say something to Brian, heard their footsteps as they left. I didn't turn around. The party continued. People came up to me, carefully not mentioning what had just happened. We ate, we talked, we celebrated. But everyone knew something had shifted. The comfortable old Dorothy who'd been accepting poor treatment for years was gone. That night when I got home to my condo, I called Frederick Martinez. "It's time," I said. "I want to move forward with everything we discussed, and I want to add something else." "I'm listening." "I want to give Brian one chance, one final opportunity to choose correctly. I'm going to tell him the truth, all of it, and see what he does." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." The next morning, I called Brian. "We need to meet today, just the two of us, no Vanessa." "Mom, about last night. Today, Brian, 2 p.m. at Riverside Park, our usual bench." I hung up before he could argue. At 2 p.m., I was waiting on the bench where Ruth and I always started our walks. Brian arrived 10 minutes late, looking nervous. "Mom, I'm sorry about—" "Sit down, Brian." He sat. I took a breath. This was it. 41 years of secrets were about to come out. "I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. When your father died, I made a choice. I decided to raise you without you knowing we had money. I wanted you to have a normal childhood. I wanted you to learn the value of work, of earning things yourself. I wanted you to become a good man." Brian was staring at me. "What do you mean, had money?" "Your father had a good life insurance policy, and I took that money and built something with it. Winters and Associates isn't just where I worked, Brian. I own it. I founded it. For 42 years, I've been running one of the most successful accounting firms in the state." "You own the company?" "Yes, and I've invested wisely, very wisely. Brian, my net worth is approximately $4.7 million. He went white. $4 million? $4.7 million. I have investments, properties, assets. Your childhood home that I sold when you went to college? I still own it. I rent it out. I own 3 other rental properties. I have a portfolio that my financial advisor manages. I never needed Vanessa's parents' money. I never envied their wealth. I have plenty of my own." Brian was shaking his head. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted you to build your own life. And you did. You became a teacher. You found work you loved. You were happy. And then you married Vanessa." "What does Vanessa have to do with everything, Brian? Your wife has spent 2 years belittling me, excluding me, treating me like a burden. She tried to pressure me into selling my home, a home worth $320,000 that I own outright, so you could pay for braces and private school. Braces and private school that I could easily afford to help with if you'd just asked me respectfully instead of trying to manipulate me." Brian was quiet for a long moment. "You're saying you could have helped us all along?" "Yes, and I would have, gladly, if you'd treated me with respect. But instead you've spent the last 6 months trying to declare me incompetent, pressuring me to move to senior living, contacting my doctor and bank, telling my friends I have dementia. Do you understand what that does to a person? To know your only child thinks so little of you?" "I was trying to help." "No, you were trying to control me, and last night at my retirement party, your wife publicly humiliated me, and you said nothing. You defended her, you chose her. She's my wife, and I'm your mother." My voice cracked. "Brian, I raised you alone. I worked 2 jobs when you were little. I put myself through night school to get my CPA certification. I sacrificed everything to give you a good life. And I loved you enough to let you think we were just getting by because I wanted you to appreciate what you earned yourself." Tears were streaming down my face now. I couldn't stop them. "But I'm done sacrificing. I'm done being treated like I'm worthless. I've spent the last month restructuring my will. Owen and Lily each have trusts worth $500,000 that you and Vanessa can never touch. You'll inherit, but with conditions. And if you continue to treat me the way you've been treating me, most of my estate will go to charity." Brian's face had gone from white to red. "You're blackmailing me." "No, I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. This is insane. You've been lying to me my whole life." "I was protecting you." "No, you were playing games. You let me think we were poor. You let me struggle through college. You got scholarships. You graduated with honors. But I could have had it easier. I could have—" He stopped. "Wait. Is this why you never helped me buy a house? Why you never offered to pay for my wedding? You had millions of dollars and you let you what? Build a life? Have pride in your accomplishments?" "Brian, you're a good teacher. You found meaningful work. You've helped hundreds of students. Would you have done that if you'd known you had a trust fund waiting?" He stood up. "I can't believe this. And now you're holding your money over my head, trying to control me." "I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to make you see what's happening. Vanessa has changed you. She's made you entitled, demanding, disrespectful. The son I raised would never have tried to force his mother out of her home, would never have stood by while his wife humiliated her. Vanessa was right. You are jealous of her parents." "Her parents," I said quietly, "earned their money through construction. They built houses. I respect that. But they also raised a daughter who doesn't work, who looks down on anyone who has less than she does, who treats people like servants. Is that who you want to be? Is that what you want Owen and Lily to learn?" Brian was backing away from the bench. I need to talk to Vanessa. Of course you do. And then we need to talk about this, about how you've been lying. I haven't lied, Brian. I just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. He was already walking away. I sat on that bench for another hour, watching the park, watching the sky change colors as evening approached. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. Vanessa says you're manipulating me. She says rich people who hide their money are sick. She says if you really loved me, you would have told me the truth and helped us when we needed it. I didn't respond. Another text arrived. She thinks we should contest your will. She says there might be grounds to have you declared incompetent if you've been acting irrationally. There it was. The real Vanessa. The one who'd been waiting all along to get her hands on money she thought should be hers. I texted back, tell Vanessa she's welcome to try. But she should know I've been documenting everything, every conversation, every attempt to pressure me, every word she's said. And my lawyer assures me that a competent 72-year-old woman who still runs a successful business has every right to structure her estate however she chooses. And Brian, the next move is yours. You can choose to treat me with the respect I deserve. You can apologize for the last 6 months. You can set boundaries with your wife. Or you can continue down this path. But if you do, you'll do it without me. I won't be manipulated, I won't be bullied, and I won't let my grandchildren think this is how family treats each other. I waited. He was typing, then stopping, then typing again. Finally, I need time to think. Take all the time you need. But Brian, time is something I'm running out of. I'm 72 years old. How much longer do you think I'll be here? 5 years? 10? 20 if I'm lucky? Is this really how you want to spend it? He didn't respond. I went home. Ruth called immediately. Tell me everything, she said. I told her, all of it. The conversation in the park, Brian's reaction, the texts. He'll come around, Ruth said. Give him time. What if he doesn't? Then you have us. The Tuesday Morning Club stands strong. That made me smile through my tears. A week went by, then 2. Brian didn't call, didn't text. Owen's school year was ending. He was finishing 2nd grade. Lily was finishing kindergarten. I'd always attended their end-of-year programs. I texted Brian, when are Owen and Lily's school programs? No response. I texted again 3 days later. Brian, please. Whatever is happening between us, don't keep me from my grandchildren. Finally, a response. Vanessa thinks it's best if the kids don't see you right now. We don't want them confused. Confused? They'd be confused about why their grandmother suddenly vanished. That's when I called Frederick Martinez again. I want to set up college funds that are completely untouchable, I said. And I want to send documentation to the school that I'm authorized to attend any programs or events. Brian can't keep me away from my grandchildren. I'll draft everything today, Frederick said. Dorothy, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted. No, I agreed. But it's what I've got. 3 weeks after our conversation in the park, Brian finally called. Mom, we need to talk. Can Vanessa and I come over? Just you, Brian. No Vanessa. We're a team. We make decisions together. Then there's nothing to discuss. He hung up. An hour later, there was a knock at my door. Brian was there. Alone. She's waiting in the car, he said. She's furious that you won't let her come up. Good, come in. We sat in my living room, the condo Brian had called Little, the home he'd wanted me to sell, the space that was mine. I've been thinking about what you said, Brian began. About how you raised me, about wanting me to have a normal life. And I understand it, intellectually. But Mom, you have to understand how I feel. You had millions of dollars. You let me take out student loans. You let me drive a used car while you... What? Sat on your money? I was teaching you the value of work, of earning things yourself. Would you trade the pride you feel in your career, in knowing you built your life with your own hands? He was quiet. No, but I'd trade the stress. The nights I lay awake wondering if I could make rent. The times I couldn't afford to take a girl to a nice restaurant, the wedding we had to keep small because we couldn't afford more. You married for love, I said softly. At least I thought you did. Was I wrong? Of course I married for love, but Vanessa's family gave us so much. They paid for a beautiful wedding. They bought us a house. They include us in their wealth, and you just watched. I was waiting for you to ask, respectfully. As an adult to his mother, not as someone entitled to what I'd earned. But you're my mother. You're supposed to help me. And I will. I always would have. But Brian, there's a difference between helping and being used. Your wife doesn't love me. She doesn't respect me. She sees me as an obstacle, and instead of defending me, you joined her. He looked at his hands. She said if you really had that much money, you would have already given it to us. She said wealthy parents don't make their kids suffer. She said her parents would never do what you did. Her parents, I said, didn't raise a son who became a teacher and helps kids every day. They raised a daughter who's never worked, who measures worth by bank accounts, who treats people without money like they're beneath her. Which legacy is better, Brian? He didn't answer. I'm going to ask you something, I continued. And I need you to be honest. If I was actually poor, if I really was just a simple accountant living in a modest condo on a pension, would you still love me? Would you still want me in your life? Of course. Then prove it. Treat me the way you would if I had nothing. See me for who I am, not what I have. Apologize for the last 6 months. Set boundaries with Vanessa. Let me see my grandchildren. Vanessa says, I don't care what Vanessa says. I was standing now. Brian, you're 41 years old. When are you going to stop letting your wife make all your decisions? When are you going to remember that you had a family before you married her? You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Vanessa's used to a certain lifestyle. Her parents expect things. We have the house in Willowbrook Estates. That you didn't need. You had a perfectly good house. But this one is better. It's in a good school district. It has space. It's a prison, I said quietly. A beautiful, expensive prison where you owe your in-laws everything. Where you can never say no to them because they own your home, where you've traded your independence for granite countertops. Brian's face flushed. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me, Brian, when was the last time you made a decision without consulting Vanessa or her parents? When was the last time you did what you thought was right, not what they wanted? Silence. I raised you to be strong, to think for yourself. Where did that man go? He grew up, Brian said. He learned that life is complicated, that you have to make compromises. Compromises, yes. But not at the expense of your integrity, not at the expense of treating your mother like garbage. He stood up. I should go. Vanessa's waiting. Of course she is. At the door, he turned back. Mom, I don't know how to fix this. Yes, you do, I said. You just have to decide if you want to. He left. I stood at my window, watching him get into the car, watching Vanessa's animated gestures as he told her what happened, watching them drive away. That night, I updated my will one final time. Frederick came to my condo with all the paperwork. You're sure about this? He asked. I'm sure. If Brian didn't reconcile with me within the next year, if he didn't demonstrate genuine change, then my estate would be divided as follows. $1,000 to Owen and Lily's trusts, $1,000 to charity, split between scholarships for single mothers and programs for elderly women, $500,000 to Winters and Associates to fund a mentorship program. The remaining $1.9 million to be divided among my friends and colleagues who'd shown me kindness. Brian would receive exactly $1. $1. So he couldn't claim he'd been forgotten. It's harsh, Frederick said. It's fair, I corrected. I'm not punishing him for marrying Vanessa. I'm holding him accountable for his choices, for how he's treated me, for choosing money and comfort over integrity. And if he changes? Then he gets everything, Well, most of everything. The grandchildren's trusts stay untouchable, but he'd inherit the rest, in the structured way we'd discussed. Enough to be comfortable, but not enough to stop working, not enough to make him forget the values I tried to teach him. Frederick had me sign everything. It was done. June turned into July. I didn't hear from Brian. I saw pictures on Facebook. They'd taken the kids to Vanessa's parents' beach house. Owen and Lily looked happy, smiling in the sun. I wasn't invited. They can't keep this up forever, Ruth said during our Tuesday morning walk. Eventually, Owen and Lily will ask about you. Maybe, or maybe they'll forget me entirely. 5 and 8 years old, kids that age adapt. Don't talk like that. But it was true. I was becoming a ghost in my grandchildren's lives. In August, something unexpected happened. I got a phone call from my son's colleague, another teacher at the high school where Brian worked. Mrs. Winters? My name is Raymond Park. I teach with Brian. I'm calling because, well, I wanted you to know that Brian's been struggling at work. He's been distracted, missing meetings. The principal pulled him aside last week. I thought you should know. Thank you for telling me, Mr. Park. But why are you calling me? Because Brian mentioned once that his mother was a successful accountant, and I remember thinking that he spoke about you with pride. But lately, when your name comes up, he changes the subject. I thought you should know he's not okay. After we hung up, I sat with that information. Brian was struggling. Part of me wanted to call him immediately. Part of me wanted to rush to his side, to fix everything like I'd done his whole life. But I didn't. Because that was the problem, wasn't it? I'd always fixed everything. And now, at 72 years old, I'd finally learned to let go. September came. School started again. Owen was in 3rd grade. Lily was in 1st grade. I didn't know what teachers they had. I didn't know if Owen still loved dinosaurs or if Lily still wanted to be a veterinarian. I sent birthday cards with checks for $50. The amount they'd expect from poor Grandma Dot. I didn't know if they received them. October arrived. That's when everything changed. I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer it. Mrs. Winters, this is Patricia Hartford, Vanessa's mother. I froze. In 2 years, Patricia Hartford had never called me, had barely spoken to me except to make polite small talk at family events. Yes? I'm calling because I think we need to talk about our children. What about them? Can we meet? Tomorrow? There's a restaurant called the Garden Room. I'll make a reservation for lunch. I should have said no. I should have hung up. But curiosity got the better of me. Fine, noon. The Garden Room was exactly the kind of place Patricia Hartford would choose. Expensive, exclusive, filled with women who didn't work and men who worked too much. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, wearing a Hermes scarf that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Dorothy, she said, standing to air-kiss my cheek, thank you for coming. We ordered. She got a salad, I got soup, and then she got to the point. I'm going to be frank with you. Vanessa told me about your situation, about the money you've been hiding. I haven't been hiding anything. I simply chose not to advertise my financial situation. Call it what you want. The point is, you have money, significant money, and you're considering cutting Brian out of your will. That's between Brian and me. No, Patricia said firmly. It's not. Because if you cut Brian out, it affects my daughter. It affects my grandchildren, and I won't allow that. Allow, I set down my spoon. Mrs. Hartford, what I do with my estate is my business. Not when it impacts my family. Vanessa deserves security. Those children deserve their inheritance. Those children have trusts worth $500,000 each. They'll be fine. But Brian won't be, and that means Vanessa won't be. Do you understand what you're doing? You're ruining their marriage. I'm ruining their marriage by not giving them money I earned, by expecting to be treated with basic respect. Patricia leaned forward. Let me tell you something about respect, Dorothy. In my world, family takes care of family. We don't play games. We don't hide assets. We don't pit children against spouses. My husband and I have given Brian and Vanessa everything they have because that's what family does. You've given them everything so they'd be dependent on you, so you'd always have control. Her eyes narrowed. That's a very ugly thing to say. But is it true? We stared at each other. I came here to make you an offer, Patricia finally said. If you reinstate Brian as your full heir, no conditions, no games, Gerald and I will add another $200,000 to their account. Call it an incentive for family harmony. I almost laughed. You're trying to bribe me? I'm trying to solve a problem. You want your son back? Fine. Give him his inheritance, and I guarantee Vanessa will encourage him to rebuild your relationship. So he'd love me for my money? That's your solution? It's better than him resenting you for withholding it. I stood up. Thank you for lunch, Mrs. Hartford. But I'm not interested in your offer. My relationship with my son isn't for sale. Then you're a fool, and you'll lose him forever. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll lose him with my integrity intact. I left her sitting there with her expensive salad and her manipulative schemes. That night I got a text from Brian. Vanessa's mother called her. She told her about your lunch. Why won't you just give me what's mine? Why are you making this so difficult? I stared at that text for a long time. What's yours? He'd said, as if he was entitled to money he'd never earned, as if 50 years of my work belonged to him by default. I didn't respond. The next day, I got a call from my lawyer. Dorothy, you need to know that someone has filed a complaint with Adult Protective Services. They're claiming you're being financially exploited by someone and that you may not be competent to manage your affairs. Who filed it? The complaint is anonymous, but given the timing, Brian or Vanessa. Possibly, an investigator will contact you. Just be honest with them. Show them your medical records, your business records. You have nothing to worry about. But I did worry, because this was how it started. This was how they'd try to take control. The investigator came a week later. Her name was Lisa Chen, and she was professional but thorough. Mrs. Winters, I need to ask you some questions about your living situation, your finances, and your relationships. I showed her everything. My medical records showing perfect health. My business records showing a successful, thriving company. My bank statements showing careful, intelligent management of assets. And the person who filed the complaint. Do you know who they might be concerned about? She asked. My son. He thinks I should be giving him money. I've chosen not to. That's your right. I know it is, but he's trying to make it seem like I'm incompetent so he can take control. Lisa Chen closed her notebook. Mrs. Winters, I've been doing this job for 12 years. I can spot financial abuse and I can spot elder incompetence. You have neither. You're one of the most competent 72-year-olds I've ever met. I'll be filing a report that says there's no cause for concern. Thank you. After she left, I sat in my condo and cried. Not from sadness, really, from exhaustion, from the weight of fighting my own son, from the loneliness of being 72 years, old and more isolated than I'd ever been. That evening, Ruth brought over dinner. I'm tired, I told her. I'm so tired of all of this. I know, honey, I know. Do you think I'm wrong? Should I just give in, give them the money and hope they'll love me again? Ruth took both my hands in hers. Dorothy Winters, you listen to me. You've spent 50 years building something remarkable. You've earned every penny through hard work and intelligence. You don't owe anyone anything, not even your son. Especially not if he can't see your worth beyond your bank account. But he's my son. I know, and that makes this harder. But you can't save him from his own choices. You can't force him to be the man you raised him to be. All you can do is stand firm in who you are. She was right. I knew she was right. November arrived. Thanksgiving was coming. I'd always hosted Thanksgiving. For 40 years, it had been our tradition. I texted Brian. Thanksgiving is in 3 weeks. You're all welcome here, 5 p.m. I'll make turkey like always." His response came 2 hours later. "We're going to the Hartfords this year. Thanks anyway." I spent Thanksgiving with Ruth, Eleanor, Martha, and 3 other women from the senior center. We had turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce. We laughed. We told stories. It was nice. But it wasn't my family. December came, the holidays. I sent Christmas presents to Owen and Lily, books, toys, nothing expensive enough to raise questions. I sent cards to Brian. I got nothing back. On Christmas Eve, I went to midnight service at the church I'd attended for 30 years. I sat in the pew alone listening to carols, watching families sit together. And I made peace with the possibility that this was my life now. January arrived, my birthday, January 15th. I turned 73 years old. Ruth and the Tuesday Morning Club threw me a party. We had cake. We laughed. They gave me gifts, a new book, a scarf, a plant for my windowsill. Brian didn't call, didn't text, nothing. At 7 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Owen standing there, holding a piece of paper. Just Owen, no Brian, no Vanessa, no Lily. "Grandma Dot!" He threw himself at me, hugging me tight. "Owen! Sweetie, what are you—" Behind him, I saw Raymond Park, Brian's colleague from the school. "I'm sorry for intruding, Mrs. Winters," Raymond said. "Owen asked me to bring him. Brian doesn't know he's here." I invited them both in. Owen was looking around the condo, tears in his eyes. "I missed you, Grandma," he said. "Why don't you come over anymore?" I knelt down to his level. "Oh, sweetheart, I've missed you too. So much. Dad says you're sick. He says that's why we can't see you. But Mr. Park says you're not sick. He says Dad is confused." I looked at Raymond, who shrugged apologetically. "Owen overheard his parents talking at school pickup. He asked me if it was true. I couldn't lie to him." "Grandma, I made you a birthday card." Owen handed me the piece of paper. It was a drawing of me and him at the park, holding hands. "Happy birthday, Grandma Dot. I love you. Love, Owen." I was crying, full-on sobbing, 8 years old, and this child had more courage and love than his father. "Thank you, baby. This is the best present I've ever gotten. Can I come visit you sometimes, when Dad's at work?" My heart broke. "Sweetie, I would love that, but your dad would be very upset if he found out." "I don't care, he's being mean. Mom, too. Lily cries sometimes because she misses you." "She does?" Owen nodded. "She's too little to understand why you stopped coming. I told her you didn't stop loving us." "Never," I whispered. "I will never ever stop loving you and Lily." Raymond cleared his throat. "Mrs. Winters, I'll be honest. What Brian and Vanessa are doing isn't right. Owen and Lily need their grandmother. If you want, I can help facilitate visits. Bring them here when Brian's at work. He doesn't have to know." It was tempting. So tempting, but it was also wrong. "That's kind of you, Mr. Park, but I can't have you lie to Brian. And I can't have Owen keeping secrets from his parents. That's not healthy." "Even if it means not seeing them?" "Even then." I hugged Owen one more time, breathing in his little boy smell of shampoo and playground dirt. "You are the best grandson in the world. And I promise you, this won't last forever. One way or another, things will change." After they left, I sat with Owen's card for hours, memorizing every crayon line, every misspelled word, every ounce of love on that page. And I made a decision. I called Frederick Martinez the next morning. "I'm ready to finalize everything. No more waiting, no more hoping Brian will change. The 1-year deadline I gave him, I'm invoking it now. Execute the will as we discussed." "Dorothy, are you sure? Once this is done?" "I'm sure. And Frederick, I want you to send Brian a letter. A formal letter explaining that he has forfeited his inheritance due to his treatment of me over the past year. I want him to know exactly why. And I want him to know that unless something dramatic changes, he'll receive $1 from my estate." That will destroy any chance of reconciliation. The chance died when he chose them over me. When he kept my grandchildren from me, when he tried to have me declared incompetent. I gave him opportunity after opportunity. He chose every time to hurt me. Frederick was quiet. I'll prepare the letter. It'll go out next week. That week was the longest of my life. I went about my routine. Tuesday morning walks with Ruth, managing the final details of my retirement transition, organizing my condo. On Thursday, February 3rd, at 3:47 p.m., my phone rang. Brian. I let it ring. He called again and again. Finally, I answered. "You're cutting me out of your will?" he was yelling, his voice hoarse. "Your own son. After everything you've done, Brian." "Yes." "Mom, please, you can't do this. Vanessa says—" "I don't care what Vanessa says. She's my wife. And I'm your mother, the woman who raised you alone, the woman who sacrificed everything for you, the woman you tried to have declared incompetent, the woman whose retirement party you ruined, the woman you've kept from her grandchildren for 6 months. We were protecting the kids from what? From love? From their grandmother? Or were you protecting them from seeing how badly you were treating me?" Silence. "Brian, I gave you chance after chance. I told you the truth about my finances. I explained why I'd hidden it. I asked, begged, you to treat me with basic respect. And what did you do? You tried to control me. You tried to manipulate me. You chose Vanessa and her parents' money over any relationship with me. Mom, please, I'll change. I'll do better. Just don't cut me out. Please." "Why? Why do you care now? Is it because you actually love me? Or because you just realized you're losing millions of dollars?" He didn't answer. "That's what I thought," I said quietly. "Goodbye, Brian." "Mom." I hung up. He called 17 more times that day. I didn't answer. The next morning, Vanessa called. "You've ruined everything," she spat, her voice venomous. All pretense of sweetness was gone. "Brian is devastated. Do you understand what you've done? We have bills, we have expenses, we were counting on your money to—" "To what?" "To maintain the lifestyle you think you deserve. Vanessa, I didn't owe you anything, I still don't. You're a selfish old witch. Brian's father would be ashamed of you." "My husband," I said coldly, "would be ashamed of his son right now. Thomas was a good man who worked hard and treated people with kindness. Your son has forgotten those lessons. Don't you dare! Goodbye, Vanessa." I blocked both their numbers. That Saturday there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole. Brian was there, but he looked different. Smaller somehow. Defeated. I opened the door. "Can I come in?" His voice was quiet. I stepped aside. We sat in my living room, this room where he'd grown up, where I'd read him bedtime stories, where I'd helped with homework, where I'd celebrated his graduation, his engagement, his children's births. "I'm sorry," he said. "For everything. You were right about all of it." "Brian." "No, please, let me finish. I've been thinking non-stop since I got Frederick's letter, and I realized something. I was so focused on Vanessa's family, on their money, on keeping up with their lifestyle, that I forgot what actually matters. I forgot the man you raised me to be." Tears were streaming down his face now. "I was a good person, Mom. I was a good teacher, a good husband, a good father. And then Vanessa's parents started giving us things, and suddenly nothing I did was enough. Our house wasn't good enough. My salary wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough. And instead of standing firm in who I was, I tried to become what they wanted. And in the process, you pushed me away." "I didn't just push you away. I betrayed you. I tried to control you. I let Vanessa humiliate you. I kept your grandchildren from you. Mom, I look at myself in the mirror now and I don't recognize who I am." I didn't say anything. I needed to hear more. "Owen came to me last night. He told me he'd visited you, that Mr. Park brought him. And he looked at me and said, 'Dad, why are you being mean to Grandma?' And I had no answer. Because there is no good answer. I've been cruel to you, and I knew it. And I did it anyway. Why? Because it was easier. Because standing up to Vanessa meant admitting I'd made mistakes. It meant losing the house, the lifestyle, the approval of her parents. It meant being uncomfortable. And I chose comfort over you. I chose money over my own mother. He buried his face in his hands. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to change your will. I don't expect anything. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm so sorry. I sat with his words. Part of me wanted to immediately forgive him. To pull him into my arms like I'd done his whole life. To fix everything. But I couldn't. Not yet. What about Vanessa? I asked. Brian took a shaky breath. I told her I wanted marriage counseling. She refused, said there was nothing wrong with our marriage, only with you. I said that was the problem, that she couldn't see how she'd turned me against my own mother. She said if I chose you over her, she'd take the kids and leave. What did you say? I said that if she made me choose between my children and my mother, then maybe we didn't have a marriage worth saving. She's staying at her parents' house right now, with Owen and Lily. My heart broke for him. Brian, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we'll work it out. Maybe we won't. But I couldn't keep living that way. I couldn't keep being that person. We sat in silence for a long moment. I want to see you, I finally said. And Owen and Lily. I want to be their grandmother again. I'll make it happen, even if Vanessa fights me. They need you. And the money? He looked at me. Mom, I don't care about the money. I mean, I do, obviously. It would help. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I love you. Because you're my mother. Because I was wrong. If I reinstate you in the will, I need to know it won't change things. I need to know you won't go back to how you were. I understand, and honestly, after everything, I think the conditions you set are fair. I need structure, I need accountability, I need to earn your trust back. I took his hand. Brian, I've loved you every single day of your life. Even when you hurt me, even when you chose them over me, I'm your mother, that doesn't change. Does that mean? It means I'll talk to Frederick. We'll revise things. You'll inherit, but the conditions remain. And Brian? Vanessa doesn't get to control what I give you. If she can't respect me, then she doesn't get to benefit from my assets. Is that clear? Yes. Mom, thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me. I'm your mother. I'll never give up on you. He stayed for 2 hours. We talked about everything. His marriage, his fears, his hopes. When he left, I felt lighter than I'd felt in months. That night, I called Ruth. He apologized, I told her, really apologized. And I'm going to give him another chance. With conditions. Good, because you deserve to see those grandchildren. Yes, I said. I do. The next few months were complicated. Brian and Vanessa started marriage counseling. Sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't. Vanessa was still angry at me, still thought I should just hand over my money with no conditions. But Brian was different. He started standing up to her, setting boundaries, insisting that Owen and Lily see me regularly. I got my grandchildren back. Every Sunday, Brian brought them to my condo. We'd bake cookies, read books, go to the park. They told me about school, about their friends, about their lives. Lily told me she wanted to be an artist now, not a veterinarian. Owen told me about his science fair project on volcanoes. These were the moments I'd missed, the small, precious moments that made life worth living. Brian and Vanessa are still working on their marriage. I don't know if they'll make it, but that's their choice to make. My will is finalized. Brian will inherit, but with conditions that protect his interests and mine. Owen and Lily have their trusts. My charities are funded. And if Brian ever betrays me again, it's all documented clearly. I'm 73 years old now. I still take morning walks with Ruth every Tuesday and Thursday. I still manage the oversight of Winters and Associates. I still live in my little 2-bedroom condo that I love. And I'm happy. Not perfectly happy, The relationship with Vanessa is still strained. She's polite now, but I can tell she resents me. Maybe that will change. Maybe it won't. But I learned something important through all of this. I am enough. Not because of my money, not because of what I can give others, but because of who I am. Dorothy Winters. Mother, grandmother, accountant, woman. And I refuse to let anyone make me feel small ever again. Sometimes I wonder, though, would you have forgiven them? Or would you have stood your ground like I did? Sometimes I wonder if younger people understand what it's like to be treated as invisible in your own family, to be valued only for what you can provide. What would you have done in my shoes?